Line them up! Line them up!
Welcome back, everybody. Today we're going over this light right here. It comes as a package as you see it. It's the Surefire M312. So it's part of the Scout series of lights, as you guys have probably guessed who are familiar with Surefire's offerings. But this one's new. I believe it's new for this year, in fact. And basically what's new about it is the new inclusion of the DS07 tail cap here, which we're going to get into here in just a bit. But I realized I actually don't have an M300 review here on the channel, even though I've had one for quite a while. So we're going to kind of cover that review with this light as well. So the big difference again is just going to be the tail cap. But what we're going to do first is let the dogs take a look at it, make sure it's all good, and then we're going to do a beam comparison outside with a few other popular lights. This time we're going to do it not only at the fence, so that intermediate distance, but we're going to test the throw as well and see how this little light stacks up to some of the other offerings out there on the market. I brought a couple lights out for the beam comparison, and first up, this one here is going to be the Stream Light. This is the rail mount one, so it's a 350 lumen weapon light, relatively similar in size. You guys can see it has that hot spot in the middle. There's some ducks out there going crazy in the lake. I don't know if you guys can hear it, but that fence post there is maybe 40, 45, 50 feet away from where we're at, and it lights it up pretty intensely. I set the camera settings so that it looks pretty similar to what I'm seeing out here with my naked eye. Now, for comparison's sake, here is the 312. So you guys can see it in terms of beam pattern. It also has this nice center hot spot, which is good for throw, which you'd expect on a rifle light. I would say the spill, though, is actually a little bit greater. Kind of put them up next to each other. Stream Light here, Surefire here. You can get kind of an idea of the tint of the light as well. This one's a little bit more white, at least as it appears to my eye. That would be the the Surefire rather, and this is your Stream Light. Yeah, definitely the spill is a little bit more with 312. There's no doubt about it as I'm looking at them here back to back. But that'll give you an idea of how these two compare. What you're seeing here is the Stream Light TLR1HL, and you guys can see the hot spot there is a little bit wider, and it's got a good bit of spill, and that's because it's a pistol light. So it's primarily designed as a pistol light. It's not designed to have the same amount of throw, but this one here is a lumen monster. You can see even with the hotspot completely off camera, it's still illuminating that fence relatively well. So that's just sort of something you have to understand with pistol and rifle lights. They can both work well at the same thing, but each one typically, in terms of beam pattern, is optimized for a certain distance and a certain use. So here's our Surefire 312 again. Check out the hotspots compared to the two. Really, in terms of intensity, the hotspots actually look about the same. The Stream Light over here is a little bit wider, as you can see, than our 312. We'll kind of switch them around so you guys can get an idea. Surefire over here on the right, Stream Light over here on the left. Again, there's your beam pattern of your 312. We'll throw it across the lake here in just a second to show you guys just sort of what the throw looks like. Here we have the tree line across my lake. I will annotate below what this is in terms of distance. I'm not sure. I'm going to have to laser range find it. I've never done it. But you can see that that is basically the hot spot across the way, lighting up the trees there. Now, same light we just saw there, which was the Stream Light, TLR1HL, again, much more higher lumen light. You can see the spill out there of the hotspot, so it's still the hotspot, but the spill of it is a little bit wider. Again, here is the Stream Light, or correction, the Surefire on the right, Stream Light on the left. So you guys can see sort of how those compare. And when we take them all away, you can see there that, I'm not sure if it comes across on camera, but there's a little bit of spill out there in those trees, but really it's the hotspot doing the work at that distance. The light illuminating the trees right now is this Stream Light Rail Mount 1, again, 350 lumen light, versus here on the right is going to be our Surefire. I'm not sure how well that comes across on camera. The Surefire definitely throws better. There's no getting around it. It may be similar in terms of lumen output, but in terms of throw, the Surefire over here on the right versus the Stream Light here on the left, it illuminates the trees a little bit better. Again, I'm not sure how well that comes across on camera, but in person, I can tell you that's definitely the case. With the beam comparison out of the way, we'll go over some basic specs and then get into the details on it. So first off, it's a 300 lumen output light. It's going to give you 1.5 hours of runtime with two CR123 batteries on there. One thing that's really nice about Scout lights, and that I like, I know a lot of other people like, is that they have this bezel here. The bezel itself is relatively narrow compared to other weapon lights at 1.125 inches, so that's nice. Overall length with this one is going to be 4.9 inches. And with the batteries, the whole package here is 5.9 ounces, which is awesome. So for those of you guys out there who are very concerned about weight, it's definitely one to look at. Myself, I'm not always concerned about weight, but one area I am concerned about weight is out near the muzzle. That's sort of the worst place for it. So having a nice lightweight package like this certainly is nice. So a couple quick size comparisons here with the lights you guys just saw. Here's the Streamlight ProTac. You guys can see if we were to line these up, it'd be about there. That's sort of how they compare in size, because of course the DS07 is meeting the body right about there. So very similar in size. The output's a little bit different. And then if you wanted to see compared to a pistol light, here's our TLR1 that we were just comparing it to. Again, that's kind of a lumen monster. And then for folks that are used to the 600 lumen output scout lights, you guys can see there how they go. So this one, I should say, has two CR123s. This one has one. I apologize. I realized I said that wrong as soon as I stacked them up, but you can see it's a little bit longer there in the body, and it's going to give you a little bit more output. This one's on a duty rifle that's doing home defense work right now in the house, so we didn't dismount it, but that's how it stacks up in terms of size and output. Like all the Scout Series mounts, it has the 7075 T6 aluminum body. It's hard coat anodized. We have the tempered lens up front there, and the reflector is the TIR reflector, which is sort of designed for close to long range in this case, so sort of an intermediate type of throw. As you guys saw outside, you guys saw it pretty well. At least I hope you did. I haven't reviewed the footage yet, but I hope you did. So to take it apart, it's pretty simple. It's basically a three-part system here. We can take our head off, and that's that unit here. Our one battery, again, as to correct myself, comes out. And here's our mount. You can actually take that off the mount and use any other aftermarket Scout mount should you choose to do so. But this one's nice. It gives you a nice 45-degree offset with any 1913 rail. So you guys have seen how we've been running it on the Geissy rail. It's very compact and out of the way with that mount. And of course, it's very solid as well. You can see here the O-rings that are on each side to give it waterproofness. Now the DS07 switch maintains that submersibility that all of the M300 and M600 lights have, so you don't give that up with this switch, which I think is kind of cool. And you'll see the threads are lubricated as you would expect from any sort of quality weapon light manufacturer out there. And you see it has the very durable springs out there for impact resistance. Scout lights are some of the most durable weapon lights out there, really on the market. They're very, very durable. You don't really have to worry about impact or shock or anything like that messing it up. So while we have the switch off, I'll show you kind of a couple cool features about it. Number one is that you can actually rotate where you set it up. So when it's off, that is a key. You can rotate this around to sort of get yourself like the best placement of where you want this switch to be. This is a manual switch, and as is this, so they operate independently. So you can either use the tail cap here for momentary and or constant on, or you can use the tape switch for momentary on. But if you wanted to, you could pull the tape switch out here and just run the tail cap like that, or never run the tail cap and just always use the momentary on from the actual tape switch. It's a pretty cool system overall. One thing I like about it is redundancy. Absolutely, absolutely. And that was one of the big things that drew me to this light. So I'll get it reassembled here and actually show you that in function here in a second. With the magic of video editing, we are back together. And one thing I want to show here is that it does have a lockout mode with the tail cap. As you see there, I just activated it by bumping the switch. And if you want to prevent that, easy way to do it is just turn it a quarter click, and then you cannot activate it. So if you're in a situation that mandates that no matter what, you don't have a negligent light discharge, you can do that. It's also good for traveling to make sure you're not going to accidentally sort of like rest the rifle case on your rifle and be pressing down on this switch and activating it. So again, even with this on, the tail cap on the actual light, you can still rotate this around to align your switches as you want them with your preference. I really, really like that feature. Now, one thing I should note is that it doesn't just move around once you have it secured. So if you tighten this down, the tail cap down, you can no longer rotate the switch. So it's got to be in the position you want it when you tighten it down, and once you do that, it's locked in place and very solid. So again, the cap here at the end, if you want to use that button, you can press and hold lightly for momentary, and if you want to click it, it will click on. The only thing that I would say, probably this entire light review, that I would say is a negative in my opinion, is that that click, you guys can hear it, is relatively loud. But again, that's kind of a non-issue at that point. If you want your momentary, you can use the tail cap, or the tape switch for that rather. You cannot activate constant on with the tape switch. If you want constant on, you have to press the button. I don't mind that. So just kind of scenario based, let's think this through. Say, for instance, a bad guy breaks in your house, you put a few shots in him, and he's not dead, right? As law-abiding citizens at this point, we have to make sure he's not a threat to our family anymore, but you can't just obviously keep shooting them. So say you had to call 911, but you wanted to make sure, again, he's not a threat, you have to illuminate him. So say during the gunfight, you were using the momentary to illuminate and not give away your position by violating light discipline rules and stuff like that. Once the threat, as you perceive it, is over and you have to move on to the next step of the fight, which is, calling 911, you can click that on, and that way you can keep view of the subject, what they're doing. You can watch their hands, all that stuff, while you're perhaps calling on a cell phone or something like that. So there are situations where you'd want both, and it's nice that the tape switch, or rather the tail cap, does give you that option. I think we hit most of the highlights on the light. I definitely like the small size. I like the weight. The output's good. Obviously, if I could have this size and this weight with the same battery life at 1,000 lumens, that'd be great, but we're not there technology-wise yet, and most people are going to be okay with the type of output they're getting from this light, because most folks are using it, or going to be using it for home defense, and a lot of people think that 300 lumens, particularly with a focus beam like we have here, is a good option for that, because the hotspot does have the capability in low light to sort of temporarily blind someone, or at least kind of give them a little bit of a pain twinge in their eye, which is a good thing, of course, for self-defense. So output-wise, it's not at the highest end of the spectrum. Durability-wise, it's absolutely right up there with any of them. These things just are bomb-proof. I really like them. And one thing that kind of led me away from reviewing lights with clicky switches like this is my experience in the military. So in the past, for years, I was issued lights that had tape switches, and I don't know how many of them I brought back to the armor and told them to get me a new one because it broke. I mean, it happened quite frequently, and actually all of them were Surefires. So I was a little bit reluctant to take this one on, but after doing some research about the actual tail cap, everyone was saying it was good to go. And again, for me, the thing that actually led me to actually pick it up was the redundancy. So as long as there's a redundant backup, I'm kind of okay with a tape switch. Tape switches, again, in my opinion, aren't the most durable piece of the system, but this one, from everything I've read and the way it's designed and the way the interface is more durable than ones in the past. And again, you have the redundancy, which I do like a lot. So I had no issues with it at all. Worked excellent. The 45-degree mount is certainly nice, and that's one thing you have to factor in when you're looking at the price of this light. So it is not cheap. Earlier I said the one sort of con was the clicking sound on the tail cap rather. Okay, we're going to do two cons, and for a lot of people, the price is going to be a little bit much. This light's basically $400 to $425 anywhere you look online, and that's expensive. However, again, keep in mind that if you're going to get like a regular M300 scout light and then add some sort of fancy offset mount to it or something like that, that's going to up the price. And this one comes with it as a package, and it also comes with the tail cap with it as a package. And I think this one alone is like 150 bucks just for the tail cap. So getting it all thrown in at that price really isn't that bad. I think that's pretty much it. If you guys have any questions about the light that I didn't answer here in the video, you can always post down below in the comment section. You can also post over at my Facebook page. As always, that's generally the best way to get in touch with me. I tend to see way more messages and comments over there than I do here on YouTube for whatever algorithm they're running this week. But yeah, that's the best way to get in touch with me, and you can post either place. And as always, guys, thanks for watching. If you're new to the channel and you're not subscribed and you like what you see, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button for more similar content in the future. And we'll see you guys in the next video.